Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle And in this video, we got ourselves an unboxing to do for a book that has crashed way too hard. I had to buy this book because the price was too good. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys this key book that I picked up, but then overall talk about the idea of certain books overcorrecting in the comic book market. Even with everything going on with the state of the economy and the pullback that we've seen in the Silver Age and the Bronze Age, I still feel like there are certain books that are crashing way more than they should be. And in this video, I'm going to talk about, some of the books that I see that are overcorrecting and see if we can have, any conclusions about why they're doing this. So in this video, we're going to do the unboxing, take a look at some of the data and see if we can make our own conclusions. But before I get into the video, if you guys would drop me a like or comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps support the channel, doing those things I appreciate. But let's get into this video here today. Now, like I was saying, I picked up this book, I felt like I had to buy it. Like the price was just too good. It was like taunting me in the face. And it was just one of those things where, already what this book was being sold for was lower than it has already crashed to. And, on top of all of that, it was being sold on, an Instagram account, one of the consignment Instagram accounts. And the book, nobody was even commenting on it. It wasn't like I was the first one to, swoop this book up or anything like that. It was like they made the post for this book and it was just sitting there and nobody commented, and it probably had 2 likes on it. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, people just really did not like this show, generally speaking. And, it's gotten to the point where the brand of this book, the value of this book has just gone down more than it should be. I mean, it's just sort of irrational at this point how much it has corrected. Now, for me, this is not necessarily a character that has ever been my favorite character. I've always had an appreciation towards him, especially since, I came into comic books at a young age around the Bagley run where, Spider-Man did a team up with, Darkhawk and Punisher and this character right here. And lo and behold, I picked up for myself a copy of Werewolf by Night, number 32, first appearance of Moon Knight in a 6.5 grade CBCS case. I guess I don't know at this point if the CBCS case is better or worse, depending on, how you feel about the current grading companies. But this is a book that I just felt like I had to get for myself due to the fact that, the price that was being asked for this one it was too good. It was even lower than what, the current fair market value is. And that is even a lot lower than what, say, the 1-year moving average was, or even the 90-day moving average was. And this is a book, like I was previously saying, I just think has, irrationally gone down too much in value. I mean, say what you will about the Moon Knight show. I think Oscar Isaac did an amazing job portraying the Moon Knight character. I think he's such an exceptional talent. And, it's pretty obvious that we're going to see more of him in the future. I'm sure he'll be a part of the Blade film that we get, sometime next year. I'm sure he'll be involved in many storylines in the future. And they'll probably, I think at this point have a Moon Knight season 2, which I think is going to probably pick up the, the value of this book once again. But, I kind of wanted to dive into sort of the topic with you guys here today and talk about this idea of books overcorrecting. I'll tell you what I also paid for this book, but I wanted to show you guys some of the numbers here first and use my, Bronze Age index and the Silver Age index to see if we can make determinations on prices of books, at least where they are now, and see if they've, corrected too much. Because I think the index should be a good indicator of, what values of books you should be paying for in this current state of the market. So let's take a look at this book right here. Of course, I picked up the Werewolf by Night, number 32, first appearance of the character of Moon Knight. The book that I got for myself is a 6.5 grade. And you can see right here, I just want to show you guys some of the values and some of the graph for this thing. And just, from a snapshot, you can see how much this book has dropped off in these last couple months or so. This right here is the fair market value for the book, which Go Collect suggests to be 1,600. We can take a look at GPA as well, but you can see the 1-year moving for this book was 1,800. The 30-day moving is now 1,350, and you can see at a certain height in 2021, this book actually had a sale for $3,000. But obviously that has to be kind of an outlier. Let's take a look at where this book was, say around December of 2021. Kind of sitting at that $2,200 range generally speaking, which is, still a lot of money, but generally speaking, that was kind of a settled floor from the previous 2,900 record sale. And now you can see the last couple sales for this book were $13.53, $12.85, $14.25. So definitely a pretty healthy pullback from where it was previously sitting. But the question, we have to kind of ask ourselves is, how much should it be correcting in this current state of the market? I mean, again, there's no real way for us to tell. There's no real way for us to know where books are going in the future. But if we're applying, the ideas from my Bronze Age index, as far as like how much, generally speaking, on average, books have corrected, I think we can look at individual cases of certain books, how much they have corrected in their individual circumstances, comparing it to the 100 average, and see if the book has kind of corrected more than it should be. So let's kind of look at the Bronze Age index and remind ourselves, what the pullbacks were for these particular books. Well, I happen to have the video pulled up right here, but you can see, in generally speaking, from the height of 2021 in April and May, this book has, the index has basically dropped 32% for the Bronze Age. Now, for the Silver Age, it's dropped more around the kind of 25% range or 29%, depending on how you kind of want to exactly evaluate it. But typically speaking, because we're talking about the Bronze Age, let's focus on that right now. 32% correction for the Bronze Age books. Now, if we go back up here and we say that, at the height of this particular book, it's a $2,700 book, what do we feel like the 32% correction should be? Well, if we're doing our math right here, we're going to go 2,700 times 7. Generally speaking, we can say this book is maybe a book that should be valued around the $1,700 range. Maybe it should be valued around the $1,600 range. So the fair market value, the suggested fair market value that Go Collect has here is actually, probably fairly accurate as far as how we should maybe evaluate where this book should currently be sitting based on how much the Bronze Age in general has corrected in the market. But like I mentioned, the last couple sales have been $1,300, $1,200, $1,400, and the book that I actually got for myself was actually $1,100. So at that point, when I was looking at, the price that was being asked for at $1,100, thinking to myself that, the pullback, generally speaking, for what we're seeing with the Bronze Age books should be going from $2,700 or so to around like $1,600, maybe $1,500, maybe even $1,450. That would be kind of a more healthy inline pullback for what typically the Bronze Age is doing. And so when I see books being sold at the $1,200 price point and the $1,100 price point, I mean, to me this feels like a really good opportunity to instantly gain sort of 10% equity upon my purchase. So let's kind of look at some of the values here. And I think some of the other things that are very interesting about these findings is that, when I go to GPA and I look at some of, the sales here in 2022, I mean, 1,110 is like the lowest calendar yearly sale that is already listed. So I even got mine for less than that. So, already I'm feeling pretty good in general. But, when we're talking about that type of price point, we have to look all the way back to, before we got, the crazy comic book market that we did here in early February and January. Maybe you see an $1,100 sale here, you see a $1,000 sale here. You go back to 2020 and you see, still this is a book that is selling around the 4-figure range, at 10 or 1065, 1200, 1100. So I was able to get my book, kind of right in line to those 2020 prices. And that really, to me, I think is the interesting thing to think about when we think about, the values and the return on the values. And anytime we now see books that are selling around their 2020 or even 2019 price point, I mean, that feels like a pretty safe buy-in overall, because what we've seen, generally speaking, and again, the trend is your friend until it's not, but what we've seen from, books that are 2018 through 2019 through 2020 through 2021 and 2022, etc., is that generally speaking, books have had, say, a 10% to a 20% year-over-year return, at least for these last 5 years or so. I realize that maybe we're in a market that shouldn't be what it is, but generally speaking, this is what it's been. And you can basically do the math where you're thinking, okay, well, 2020, this was the price of the book, say 10% year-over-year up through 2022, so 10% times twice over is basically going to lead to where the value should be. And if we're applying that to the Moon Knight book, then yeah, it should be sitting around that kind of $1,500 range or so. But we're seeing the prices overly correct. So the question is, why are they correcting even more so than what we're seeing with other Bronze Age books? And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that people do not like the books that are associated to the movies and the TV shows that typically were not loved by audiences. So people have kind of this irrational, allergy to these books that are now tainted because of the movie wasn't good or the TV show wasn't good. And I think that there's probably a lot of opportunity to find some equity in some of those books, that people don't want to actually pick up. So let's take a look at some of the other books right here that I think have kind of irrationally corrected in the market. First one here, of course, is we have Eternals #1. Now, of course, we've talked about Eternals many, many times, and we see that the values for the book have dropped even lower than what they were selling for back in 2018. I mean, that is a terrible return on your investment if you're someone who picked this book up. I mean, just due to the nature of inflation, this is a book that should have appreciated at least a little bit. Now, granted, you can make the argument that it just shot up too much, even in this 2018 jump. But, for me, when I look at this book, I think that this is a book that, generally speaking, we can agree has overcorrected simply due to the fact that people just did not like this movie. I mean, similarly, we look at, something like Amazing Spider-Man 101, another book that I think just overcorrected because people didn't like the Morbius movie. I mean, anytime you have a book that is now selling at prices that are rivaling that of, 2020, 2019, 2018, I think that there's still a really good opportunity for a lot of these books. Another book here is Special Marvel Edition 15, first appearance of Shang-Chi, another book that is now actually based on the floor price is selling for lower than what it was going for back in 2020. So I think, anytime we see books like this, Savage She-Hulk #1, another book, I think you can lump into that. I don't need to show you guys that graph because I think, I've shown it in other videos and you guys already know at this point. But anytime we see books that have kind of corrected even beyond that of, say, the 32% average for the Bronze Age, I think that there's a lot of opportunity with those books to, be very safe buys right now. And again, no one can predict the future. Nobody knows where we're going. I mean, maybe we're going to continue to go down. We're going to continue to crash here in the market. I will do a Bronze Age and Silver Age update for you guys probably next week because we have the August numbers to look at. So we'll see where we are. There's nothing to say that we can't continue to go down. But if we're looking at books right now, we're thinking about, possible new floors to get in on. I feel like anytime you see a book that is selling around that same 2020 or 2019 price point and has had that like kind of, beyond a sort of 32% crash, I think that that's a good time to probably jump in on a book. I mean, you can even reverse engineer it to think of it like, okay, if generally speaking, over the past, like, say, 5 years or so, books have had anywhere between a 10% to a 25% return on their investment as far as the values that have gone up. I mean, you can just look at, say, whatever the fair market value was for a book in 2019 or 2020, and then just do, 50% year over year. And you will generally see that the books that have crashed are now kind of fitting that 15% trend line from 2020 to 2021 to 2022. So however you want to calculate it, I think that that's a good way to make a determination if we're getting a good price for those particular books. I mean, some books still have not had that 30% pullback yet, but this one definitely did, and that is why I had to pick it up. I mean, $1,100, definitely a good deal in my opinion. And yeah, happy to add Moon Knight to my collection. I think I'll put him on the wall. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, I think that there's a lot of books that have overcorrected out there in the market, especially the ones that are coming off of the heels of shows and movies that people didn't like. But I think, sometimes as comic book collectors, we got to put all the Marvel MCU stuff aside. We got to think about, books just being purely comic books and what we think that the values should or shouldn't be for those particular books. Like, don't worry about the films and the TV shows. Just look at them in terms of the values of the books and the returns over the years and how the books compare with one another. Anyways, that's all for this video. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I'll see you in the next one.